Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy. Um, so one thing I get asked a lot is how I take my iRacing photos, and honestly, it's really simple. Um, to start off, like I'm already like a part-time photographer, or like not part-time, but like that's kind of what my profession is. Kind of, I'm kind of a photographer. Like I'm obviously not the best, but I guess an amateur photographer. I guess is what you could say. So that plays a lot into how I take my photos. Is I kind of already know what I'm doing, like what to adjust and how to make it look good, basically. But I'm just gonna give you guys a quick little tutorial on how to make basically an iRacing photo and how you can make it look a lot better than what most people will do, which is take a screenshot like this. They'll just press spacebar, print screen, and there you go. That's the picture. But I'm gonna go a little bit more into detail on how exactly I make my photos. So really to start off is you kind of find a spot on the track. So like right here, I'm at Watkins Glen, just before the bus stop in the braking zone. Um, this is a shot that I've always worked on for a long time, and it's a shot that has always worked. Especially for me, this is one of the first tracks I've ever like tried taking photos at. So I kind of know the ins and outs of what to do and where to take the picture basically. So obviously, back to what I was saying, we're in the braking zone going into the bus stop. Next thing you want to do after finding a spot on track that you really like, next thing you want to do is find an angle that you can work from. So what I always do is I never really touch. Sometimes I'll touch the TV cams, but very rarely do I touch TV cams because they're already set up the way they are, and sometimes it'll get messed up and blurry. So one camera I like to work with is rear chase. Rear chase is always a good camera to work with because it's so easy to modify and it's already the front of the car, which most people are going to want to see. You don't really want to see sometimes. I mean, sometimes you can get some good photos from the back of the car, but most photos you see on iRacing and just anywhere like it's always the face of the object. So once you have your camera in once you have the position you want it, you can go ahead and start working. So obviously, to bring up the camera, Control F12 on your keyboard, press Control, hold Control, and then press F12, and it should bring up a camera edit. So once you bring this up, the main things you want to work with, at least that I work with, are offsets X, Y, and Z. Now, what I do sometimes, if I want to put, or actually, I'll save that for the end of the video. But so let's see. So obviously your X moves in closer to the car, moves it back. Your Y is going to move it from left to right, as you can see. If I wanted to get a side shot like this, I could do that, but that's not what we're doing for now. Let me go ahead and set this back to 0 because I know it will mess me up. Okay, so, and then your Z is going to move the camera up and down on the y-axis. So it's kind of backwards. So your Y is going to move from left to right. That's basically your x-axis. That's how I look at it as a graph. It's horizontal. And your Z is going to be your y-axis, up and down, vertical. So right away for this shot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a shot that's kind of aimed to the right. So let's go ahead and aim the camera to the right. Right about there is pretty good. And then let's see, what are we going to do next? Next camera we're going to do, or next thing we're going to work on is our Z, our vertical adjustment. So what I like to do sometimes is I'll do a very close ground shot, not necessarily like in the ground like this, enough to where you can see the visor of your helmet. And then what I can do from here, so one thing I like to mess with is the static FOV. So static FOV is going to give you a whole nother type of perspective and really give you a good detail of the car. So obviously your static FOV is going to zoom the camera in and out, and it's not going to affect the pixels. It shouldn't, at least. It shouldn't affect the pixels. That's the goal. Obviously you don't really need your man focus because that's just gonna, what it does is it basically lets you get, basically just takes away the body. That's what I don't want. So we're gonna just uncheck this man focus. We don't need it for now for this shot. Um, and then obviously you have your offset X, Y, and Z. If you don't want to use those, you can use your vanish X and Y. So same thing. Vanish X moves the camera horizontally like a graph. X axis always is on the horizontal. You can move this from left to right. That's weird. Okay. Besides point. And then you have your vanish Y. Your vanish Y is going to be the same thing as your Z. It's going to move the camera up and down. But what it does, instead of just, see how Z, it kind of just holds it in position. It holds the camera in position, where the Y moves it from where you had it originally. It moves the camera up and down. So this moves the camera position. Like, it moves it from up and down where you want to see what you are looking for, basically. What you want in your shot. Whereas the Vanish X and Y, it takes that original camera place and it moves it from that position. I don't know if that makes any sense. This moves the camera. Z moves the camera. Z and Y move the camera. And X and Y, your Vanish X and Y mess with the angle. So that's not necessarily a good shot. That's not really what you want. So we're going to mess with this a little bit more. Get more of the front of the car. Bring this camera, I guess right about there is pretty good. We're going to zoom this out just a little bit, just a touch. And we're going to rotate this from the left to the right. We're actually going to add a little bit more. And we'll leave it right there. And what we can do, actually, is bring this camera up, because we want to bring this camera up just a little bit. And honestly, one thing I always get asked is, like, how do you know what angles work and what should you be looking for in a picture? As a photographer, I've been a photographer, or amateur photographer, for at least about a year and a half now, so I'm relatively new. I don't have every trick in the book, obviously. It's photography, like what I also do, graphic design. Photography is all about creativity. So you kind of just literally have to, I sit here for about 30, 45 minutes, almost an hour, sometimes even more, just messing with angles and seeing what works, because you can always find something better and you never are stuck with one angle. That's what I love about photography. It's such a freelance kind of thing that you can work with. So I'll probably pick a better shot than this, but this is just basic tutorial. So let's see. Here's a good close-up. Let me see. Move this camera a little bit. So right here, here's a good nose close-up. Right there. Like, that's just one angle. And if you want to get really creative, you can still alter this. Obviously, you can make this better. So if I wanted to make this better, I could, let's see, maybe rotate this in a little bit. And let's go ahead and move this camera out just a little bit, right about there. And we're going to move this vanish X. We're going to move this more towards the center. And we're going to move this camera just a little bit. So right here is a pretty decent shot. I don't know why my voice just cracked right there, but anyways, to move on. So right here's a pretty good shot. That's generally, I guess you could say, decent. I personally, I like working on the ovals more, because the banking gives the photo just a whole different look. Whereas if a flat surface like Watkins Glen, there's not much you can work with. but I'm doing it just for the sake that it's not impossible, basically. That's what this tutorial is for, is that it's not impossible. So let's go ahead and center this car, which is right about there. Then we're going to mess with the static FOV. We're going to zoom in just a little bit. Not a little bit, right about there. Move this vanish Y. And the way I do this is I press spacebar on my keyboard and it gets rid of the iRacing overlay. So what I do is I always, it's not necessarily a good thing in photography to have your shots be centered, but I personally always have my shots centered. I don't know why, it's just, I do it all the time. And this is what happens when you go back to your vanish X and Y, it doesn't, unless you click on it, you literally have to click on it. It will still have you adjusting it if you let go of it. So if you went your mouse over here and then came back, it would move this bar all over and over, which you just saw. Back to what I was saying. So shots, a center shot is not necessarily a good thing in photography because you want to have a bit of a background. You're going to want your object to be the main object. You want also to have what you're working with, which is in this case the car, but you also want to have your background. But for this shot, we're just going to have it be a center shot like this. So what I can do, I can mess with the vanish X and Y and I'll balance it. So you can see there's a gap here where you see the car and then there's the pavement. Same thing up here. You see the roof of the car going to the top of the tree line or the top of whatever you're working with off your monitor. So I do it based on the proportion from my object to my monitor and adjusting this gap in between. So I always put it center, or at least what I think is center. So obviously this is not lined up properly. It's generally a good photo, but it's not necessarily the greatest. So I'll move this down just a little bit, adjust this slightly up. Say right about there. Right about there is a good center point. And then what you can do, because obviously I have an uneven amount of space over here versus space over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this vanish X and Y and I'm going to move this camera slightly over. Right about there is a good center shot. And then once you find the angle you like, print screen, and there you go. Obviously, don't want the iRacing overlay, so just press space, print screen. And I always email my photos to myself because if you straight up do it to Twitter, it's going to crap on the quality. Like Twitter's quality, image quality is not very good. But let's go ahead and let's give it another angle. Let's go with a different shot, and let's go with a different spot on track too. So let's see, where is a good angle for this? So let's go back here. Right about there. So you see I already have the car sideways off the corner, which is it'll be good for a picture. So let's go ahead and go back to rear chase was what we worked with. And you can modify this angle. And as you can see, that's already a pretty decent picture. But I'm going to adjust it just a tad. And let's see if I can make this a little bit better for you guys. So let's zoom this out just a little bit. We're going to work with this, mostly the vanish X and Y. And we're going to raise this Z up just a little bit, right about here. And we're going to move this right about there is pretty good. And then we're going to take this vanish X and Y and we're going to move it all the way to the side of the screen. Because, like I said, you want to have a little bit of background. Do you get, well, actually, you know what? We've done a front shot already, so let's go ahead and do a rear shot. Now, this is what happens when you try to adjust off of camera you already made. So, an easy way to fix this is really, you have to sit there and mess with it. So, what I do sometimes is I'll take my offset X and I'll move it to where I want it, and then I'll obviously rotate this to get the camera in position, and then from there you can mess with the angles. So let's go ahead and get a low shot, like right about here. But we're gonna move this Y, and we're going to move this X in. So from here is a pretty good shot. It's not the greatest. And you can sit there and mess with the replay and see what works best for you. I personally like this sideways picture, so we're going to go with this. Let's see. We're going to mess with the static zoom already. So we're going to put it right about here. And we're going to mess with this vanish X because we want to move the car basically almost to center. But we're going to get a little bit more of this track background. As you can see, the blue guardrail. We want as much background as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this camera up right about to the edge of your screen. And we'll go a little bit more down. Right about there. So you can still see the main object, and obviously it's not balanced, but that's the beauty of photography, is that you can have something unbalanced, but real, like, photo enthusiasts are going to see that you're trying to implement the background. So here you can see I have the track going up the S's, and you got the sponsors billboards in the back, and you got the tree line, and you got the grandstands in the background, and that is a pretty decent shot. Now, what you can do if you don't like having such of a background, I actually like that a little bit more. So we're gonna move this right about here. You can still see main grandstands and all that kind of stuff. So right here is a pretty decent angle. It's not the greatest. I'll show you guys what it looks like when you work on an oval. An oval is so much easier to work with. But right here is a decent background shot. And really all I did was, again, mess with your vanish X and Y, your static FOV, and your offsets. That's basically your basic photo tutorial on iRacing. So let's get, I want to get a nice shot going into one. A nice turn one shot would be good. So we'll go ahead and mess with TV2s, and I'll show you why I hate messing with TV2s. So let's go ahead and get a nice zoom right about here. And we're going to mess with your vanish X and Y. Let's bring this up, rotate this. What you think is center, which is probably right about here. Right about here is about center on the car. So we'll move this vanish Y up. We want to get more of the background again. So here, this is a pretty decent shot, but it's not my favorite. I hate working from side angles, especially like this. It really just depends how much you mess with these other cameras. So, like, for instance, if I wanted that right there, so I messed with only the Y. I didn't touch anything else. I messed with just the Y. That right there is a pretty quality shot. And you can mess with the zoom and everything, but that... Actually, we're going to mess with the zoom. Sorry, guys, but let's go... Let's move this Z camera down. And you can see, like, it morphs the picture. That's why I hate working with TV cameras. It morphs the picture to where it's like you can't really tell what is happening in the background. So like there you can kind of see, okay, he came off the last turn and he's heading towards turn one. That is a pretty good shot right there. Let's go ahead and mess with this a little bit more. So TV1, it moves the camera based off of its previous position. So like I'm obviously stuck behind the catch fence, so I can't really see much here. But what we can do is we can get this a little bit more rotated, and we can move this Z up so we see the top portion of the car. And we're gonna zoom this camera in. It bases, so here, let's see. Let's go static. Maybe that'll help. So this move, yeah, okay. So we need to zoom this out. Yeah, this camera's all fucked. That's why I hate working with TV cameras, is that it never works out properly. Um, but we're gonna get a decent shot into one here. So let's go ahead. That's why I like working with rear chase cameras and just really chase cameras, because they give you in a unique angle that you can't really get anywhere else, like any other camera. So let's go ahead. I'm going to show you guys another trick. So obviously this shot is static. It's like there's no rotation or anything like as far as tilting the picture. It's all simple. But let's go ahead and work on the angle a little bit more. Right about. Let's give this a little bit more top view. Let's rotate this. Let's move the car over this way. So what I can do here is obviously just find like a static angle. You don't have to find anything pretty. Change the aim type. So what I do is I'll go static. And what static does is that it opens up this orient column. So what I'll do is I'll mess with the orient and it tilts the camera, which gives you a whole other unique shot that you can work with. I don't personally mess with orient Y and P. I only mess with R because that changes your rotation. And it adds a whole new perspective to the picture. So let's go ahead and mess with this zoom, but we're gonna move this camera in more because we don't want that catch fence in there. Zoom this out a little bit more. Move this vanish X. Right there is a pretty decent shot. Let's move this down a little bit more. Get a little bit more zoom in there. Oh, right there's where I had it, yeah. Or actually, right there. And then let's mess with this just a tad. So obviously you're going to run into a balancing issue because your camera's so zoomed in that it's hard to get a nice quality picture. That's a pretty decent picture, guys. I mean, it's not the greatest, obviously. And also keep in mind, I'm not I'm not the greatest photographer, but I work with what I got. But right here, like I said, it's a pretty decent picture. It's not the best. You can work with this a little bit more, but right there is a pretty decent shot. I generally enjoy looking at that. So print screen or press spacebar, get rid of this. But I'll run you through what I did to change this. So I changed my aim type to static, which opens up this orient. You mess with this rotation, this R, rotates the camera. It pivots it from left to right based on their camera position, and mess with your offsets to find where you want the camera to be placed, which I did. And then you mess with this vanish X and Y, which moves the camera based on its axis from left to right, up and down. And then I changed the static FOV to give this nice zoomed in shot. So what I can do is I can balance this out just a little bit more. In photography, all you really want is balance. Like you can't really, a photo is not going to look good if there's no balance. So as you can see, I proportioned the car from the nose to the rear deck lid spoiler. I balanced it from there to there. And the same thing, I balanced it from the top of the car, which is this roof line right where that shark fin comes up on the passenger side. I balanced it from there to the top of my screen to the rear tire to the bottom of my screen. And that gives you a pretty good balance shot. So right about there, that's an ideal photo. That's what we call what most photographers would call balance. So that's pretty much your photo tutorial. Is right about there. Is messing. Really, that's it. You're messing with your offsets, one orient, and your static, and your vanish X and Y. God dang it! I forgot to set this. Technical difficulties, guys. This is part of photography. Right about there, yeah. But like I said, you're only messing with three. If you really want to have just the basic photo knowledge, you're messing with 3 to 5 angles or 3 to 5 adjusters, which are your vantage X and Y, static FOV, your offsets. So yeah, right around 5 to 6, I should say, 5 to 6 um, basic photo knowledge adjusters. But if you really want to get your shots looking nice, like this one, you change your aim type to static, and you mess with that R and orients in your orients. The rotation is honestly is a game changer in photography. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And obviously, when you go to other tracks, you're gonna find certain angles that you like more than others. It's all about creativity. You gotta find what you think looks good, because that's what matters. If you think the photo looks good, then it looks good. You can't worry about what other people think or what other people will think of that angle. If it works for you, it works for you, and that's what's gonna make the picture so much more unique. Is that it's your own perception of the photo and what you think will look good. And that's what I love about photography. Is it lets you do your own work. You can never copy someone's work. It's all off your inspiration and what you think will look good, and it's all about creativity. But that's pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this. I know it's kind of a long tutorial, but it's it's kind of the basics of photography. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys want to see more content like this, whether it's taking photos or graphic design or anything really, just leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace, guys.